I'm Brittany Hope. My organization is Southwest Airlines. As a female passenger on Flight 1380 was killed after an in-flight engine failure caused issues to the airplane's main body. This took place April 17, 2018. Southwest's initial approach to the crisis was mostly mortification and an immediate corrective response. However, I feel as though their corrective action was a little less long-term approach and more of a making people happy type thing. Now, my public announcement will be made the first week of May. This gives enough time for people to heal and the company to meet and create better procedures. There were a few different strategies that I thought would be effective for this particular circumstance. Accidentals seemed to be a necessity, and interesting enough, through all the research I did, nothing I found in my research was pointing to the fact that this was in fact just an accident and not potentially a premeditated chaos. Next, I thought that compensation would be beneficial. Aside from the family of a woman who was fatally injured, there were so many other victims who were faced with potential years of aiding from this event. Compensating them for what they suffered through seems like the right approach. Now, corrective action, as I stated above, was something that Southwest did touch base on initially. However, I would have liked to have seen a more long-term plan in effect, something that was more than just a few scans by a machine and called good. Relying heavily on something such as an airplane deserves the utmost attention to detail on every single issue every single time. Apologizing for the accident is an important aspect, but I do think that the compensation of all the sufferers is above all else. We need to focus on those who need the financial burdens lifted from them at this point in time. Now, my target audience will obviously mostly be the victims and the supporters. However, media outlets will be covering this particular statement, and anybody who was involved with the media outlet in the beginning will likely be watching this to become more knowledgeable and updated as the time progresses. So I will be starting my briefing. It's been just short of a month since the April tragedy that had taken place in one of our aircrafts mid-air. Within this time frame, many individuals from across the company threshold have come together to analyze, evaluate, and implement new safety regulations, preventative techniques, and a way to express our sincerest apologies to our local customer base. We want to make certain that safety is our number one priority, so let me begin with providing some background of the Southwest and this particular incident. Southwest has always taken pride in the fact that customers come absolute first, starting with their low-fare air costs. We also ensure that our crew members are not only friendly with an eagerness to please, but trained to handle all situations appropriately. In fact, according to ID Power, the customer base alone has voted Southwest one of USA's top best airlines in 2018. Unfortunately, there were no mechanical or functional issues or signs that this tragedy would unfold. The impact of having such a horrific accident happen, especially on one of our routine flights, has left the heartache and extreme sympathy for family, friends, and passengers who were subjected to such an event. We would never be able to begin to express how deep our heartfelt sympathy is for all of those impacted. We want to assure each and every one of our customers and team members that an incident like this will never take place on a Southwest flight again. To cover what I'm sure most of you know already, Southwest Flight 1380 made an emergency landing April 17, 2018 at the Philadelphia International Airport. This was after having engine failure and pressurization in the cabin. In the time that the failure occurred and the pilots were working on a safe landing, Jennifer Riordan was partially sucked out of the window nearest her seat. Flight attendants and fellow passengers worked to get Mrs. Riordan back on board the flight. Though she was injured, they administered necessary life-saving measures. USA Today did note at one point that she had died immediately mid-air, but she was actually hospitalized and later pronounced deceased as a result of the incident. Our staff did an impeccable job given the circumstances. As CEO of Southwest Airlines, I'd like to take the time to reassure the community that though this was purely an accident, as we have always tried our best to maintain all of our planes appropriately, effective immediately, all Southwest Airlines will not only have a once-over before departing, but it will have a second over by an entirely different crew of mechanics following that. We strongly believe that this will aid in alleviating any potential error that could be looked over by one set of eyes, but certainly not a second. With having our equipment double-checked, timely maintained, and keeping detailed logs of the mechanical history, this will substantially decrease the possibility of another Southwest aircraft issue. Furthermore, aside from the overhaul of previous mechanical regulations, we would also like to extend our hands to the family of Mrs. Riordan. We understand that no amount of financial compensation will alleviate their heartache. However, Southwest will be making a substantial contribution to those suffering her loss. The passengers on board Flight 1380 will also see financial compensation and will be awarded free, unlimited lifetime Southwest flights. Hopefully, with the extra monetary burden being lifted, they'll each have the ability to process and heal appropriately. Southwest admits responsibility for this incident, and we are seeking the community's forgiveness. To show our immense amount of gratitude to each and every person who has contributed to and supported us throughout the devastating time, we will be implementing a promotion that all flights through the summer will be largely discounted. This will be available to each and every person who books with us throughout the rest of the summer. To conclude, it's a relief today that I finally got the ability to publicly reach out to the survivors and the supporters to clarify the steps that will be taken to ensure that the instances like this will never occur. Better mechanical maintenance and safety precaution above all else. However, I felt it was necessary to relay information that we're taking the mental health and the financial burden of off the first-hand survivors just as seriously, and as it is just as extremely important to be relevant and sympathetic to each and every one of their situations. As damaging as this tragic event is, we hope that the community will recover as we do the same.